The name is Rani Rashmoni. Born on 7th of May 1861, Jarasanko Thakurbari, Kolkata, British India. Guardian father, Hare Krishna Das Rampriya Dasi. Mother, Rampriya Dasi Babu Raj Chandra Das. Children Padmamani, Kumari, Karuna, and Jagdamba. Notable works Dakshin Swar Kali Mandir. Died 19th of February 1861. Very few women have found a place in the history of Bengal. Rani Rashmoni is one of them. She was a liberal-minded woman and sympathetic to the contemporary social reform movement. It was the worst time ever. Hindu society in India was then plagued by orthodox religious doctrines, castes, superstitions and evil practices. Among the male-dominated society, Rani Rashmoni of Jan Bazar in Calcutta was a pillar of power in the mid-19th century. The life story of Rani Rashmoni. Rani Rashmoni was born on September 28, 1793, in a small village called Kona in Holi Shahar in present-day North 24 Parganas. His father's name was Hare Krishna Das and his mother's name was Rampriya Dasi. Before entering adolescence, Rani Rashmoni got married to Babu Raj Chandra Das, a wealthy businessman from a zamindar family in Calcutta. It is heard that Babu Raj Chandra Das was on his way to Tribini one day for business. On his way, he suddenly saw an 11-year-old girl on the bank of the Ganges, who had come to bathe there. Seeing the beauty of his form and face, the young Raj Chandra, who had just reached youth, fell in love with him. On that day Raj Chandra could not go to Triveni and returned home again. Even after that he visited Rashmoni's village in Holi Shahar several more times. There he became acquainted with the form and beauty of Rashmoni as well as the form of Tejaswini and Dualu. As a result, he fell in love with the queen more deeply. Eventually, Raj Chandra Das married the queen, despite the consent of many elders in his household. One of Raj Chandra's close associates was the eminent social reformer Raja Ram Mohan Roy. Ram Mohan was fascinated by her compassionate nature after their first meeting. It is known that she blessed Rashmoni with the words, "You remove darkness from the lives of hundreds of helpless women. Survive by your name and become the queen of the people." Raj Chandra was an educated and well-thought-out man, so he advised Rani Rashmoni to do whatever her mind wanted. Rani Rashmoni and Raj Chandra were both very kind people. The poor, the miserable, the beggars and the hungry people used to serve Rani Rashmoni and Raj Chandra with all their heart and soul. No one would be neglected from their kindness and love. Rashmoni and her husband spent most of the family's wealth on social activities, religious and charitable causes. However, many of their family members disagreed in various ways, but the two of them never stopped serving the people. If we judge well today, we will surely understand that the contribution of her husband Raj Chandra was immense behind this huge public welfare activity of Rashmoni. Raj Chandra never forbade his wife to do anything in the public interest. In addition to always encouraging him, there is also a friend by his side. Raj Chandra Das and Rani Rashmoni had a total of 5 children, of which their first child died shortly after birth. He was their first son. The other 4 children were girls whose names are respectively Padmamani Virgin Mercy. Jagdamba is kept. Unfortunately, Raj Chandra Hazar died in 1830 and Rani Rashmoni became a widow at a young age. After the death of her husband, all the burdens of the business and the responsibility of managing the zamindari fell on her. He handled them very efficiently. Not only sound education but his alertness and dedication too are most required. It is heard that a friend of Raj Chandra who had taken a large sum of money as a loan, but did not repay it, went to Rashmoni after Raj Chandra's death, and requested him to appoint him as the director of his property. In a diplomatic move, Rani Rashmoni asked him to return the money first. After paying, he apologized to the man, saying that his son-in-law wanted to run the estate and that he could not do without his son-in-law. The money was also recovered as a result of this tactic of Rani Rashmoni and the gentleman was not offended. Throughout her life, Queen Rashmoni managed her business efficiently. His third daughter is married to Matharanath Biswas, an educated, tasteful gentleman. Throughout his life, Mathur Babu, his nickname, was his right-hand man and chief advisor. Not only that, the queen loved him like her own son. Born into a poor family, he was always sympathetic to the poor, which led him to help the poor financially. The queen's charitable, religious and sacred activities had no limits. He did many charitable works during his time, such as building roads for pilgrims from Subarnarekha River to Puri, building bathing ghats like Babu Ghat, Ahiratala Ghat, Nimtala Ghat. He donated land for building Belagata Canal and Madhumati connecting canal. His contributions to the Imperial Library, now the National Library, the Hindu College, now the Presidency College, the Bengal Feminine Relief Fund and many other well-known and unknown charities are essential. The example of such generosity is unparalleled in the history of any country. On learning this, Rani Rashmoni rushed to help the people again. With his intervention, everything stopped just before he spent about 1 lakh rupees for the betterment of the people and dug a canal which connected the Ganges with the Madhumati River. He was also a great patron of the Hooghly River fishermen. When she learned that the British steamship was passing through Hooghly, which was hampering the livelihood of the poor fishermen of the river, the Queen immediately leased a large portion of the river to the Hooghly. He granted local fishermen the right to fish in this stretch from Gasiri to Mirpur. He still owns several ghats in Hooghly. The most famous monument created by Rashmoni is Dakshineswar Kali Mandir, which I mentioned at the beginning of the article. But today, as you see the Kali Mandir of Dakshineswar, Rashmoni had to hear a lot from the upper caste of the society behind its construction. The west side of the Ganges is sacred, and the Queen sought land to build a temple based on this popular belief. Since the family of Rashmoni's father was lower caste according to the social system of that time, all the Brahmins were the first to obstruct the construction of Kali Mandir in Dakshineswar. Brahmin landlords will not sell land to any lower caste woman and they will not allow any ghat to be built which they will not use. Eventually, he was given land on the east side. In this work, 3 separate owners gave their land to the Queen, one a Muslim, the other a Christian and the other a Hindu. Among these lands was an old Muslim cemetery, a shrine and a reservoir called Ghazi Poker. There was a man named James Hasty who had a 2-story house where he wanted to build a factory, but this did not happen in England due to his untimely death. In the land of the Hindus there was a large bot tree along with other trees on the banks of the Ganges. The name of the place is Panchbet. The Rani Mazar and Jalasaya were kept the same, but the Kuthi and Pankabadi were somewhat altered. Rani Rashmoni was a strong woman. Her outlook was far superior to that of other contemporary women. His greatest virtue was that he would give up whatever he thought was right, no matter what the consequences. He taught us how to serve people with devotion. He never expected anything from the people in return for his services but always gave them various things as gifts. His great deeds have made him memorable to all today. Finally, on February 19, 1861, at the age of about 6, this great and majestic woman passed away. Some places named after Rani Rashmoni. An avenue on the Esplanade in Kolkata has been named after Rani Rashmoni Avenue, where her statue is located. Further, a road named after him is named Rani Rashmoni Road near his ancestral home in Jan Bazar, Kolkata. A road named Rani Rashmoni Road has been named in Dakshineswar. In 1993, a postage stamp was issued by the Postal Department of the Government of India to commemorate the bicentennial of Rani Rashmoni. He was instrumental in financing and sponsoring the Vidyasagar widow remarriage movement. There are many more examples of his courage, foresight, love for the country. In those days, the aristocracy and the common people of the country were losing faith in the history of Indian religion and culture, and began to resist and revive Rashmoni. From then on, the great Indian Renaissance began with the hands of great personalities like Ramakrishna Vivekananda. Both Sri Ramakrishna and his disciple Vivekananda may have been the product of Rani Rashmoni's dream. According to Sister Nivedita, Dakshineswara would not have existed without Queen Rashmoni. Without Dakshineswara, Gadadhar would not have become Sri Ramakrishna. Narendranath Dutta would not have become Vivekananda without Sri Ramakrishna. The Vivekananda Renaissance of India would not have been possible. So Rani Rashmoni is truly the mother of Indian Renaissance. On the occasion of the worship of Jagannath Dev, once Rani Rashmoni was going to Jagannath Dham, Puri, with her family and slaves. As he walked along, he noticed that the roads there were very bad. The rest of the pilgrims are having a hard time going that way. Seeing that, the Queen's mind was filled with great sorrow. He then repaired all the roads, thinking of their advantage, but he did not stop there. Spending about 60,000 rupees at that time, he also made 3 diamond-studded crowns for the 3 idols of Jagannath, Balarama, and Subhadra. Dwarkanath Tagore, the first Indian industrialist, mortgaged a portion of his zamindari to Queen Rashmoni for moving to London in 1847. It was a waterlogged part of the Sundarbans where at that time there were few families and mainly wetlands. Rani Rashmoni persuaded all these families to build fish farms, fish ponds, on the lands which later became the identity of the region. The Queen and her conflict with the British in India became a household word in her time. He once forced the British government to stop the English naval trade so that they could take away their taxes on fishing in the Ganges. And he succeeded. Once the British stopped the worship procession by playing drums, saying that it would disturb the peace. Rashmoni became enraged at this interference in the religious field and ordered to proceed by playing drums and shouting. The British government fined him 40 rupees. News of the imposition of the fine spread like wildfire, and thousands of people rallied to have the fine waived, forcing the British government to bow again. During the British rule, indigo was cultivated by the Indians once an English indigo planter started torturing the people of Mokimpur area of present-day Bangladesh to force them to cultivate indigo. A ferry terminal known as Rani Rashmoni Quotes has been constructed for ferry service at Barrackpur in West Bengal and Hooghly in West Bengal, right after the Hooghly District Correctional Institution. One of the 5 fast patrol vessels of the Indian Coast Guard has been named after Rani Rashmoni. It was commissioned in June 2018 and will be based in Visakhapatnam, locally built by Hindustan Shipyard.